Attention.
It's time to register for Lucian Live, April 19th through 22nd, 2026 in Denver, Colorado, advancing infinite possibilities. And it's higher education without limits. Don't just keep up with change, lead it. Higher ed leaders from around the world are coming together at Lucian Live 2026. Across 4 unforgettable days, you'll discover new ways to meet students where they are and make the most of your technology through inspiring sessions and hands-on demos. Together, we're leveraging AI to create deeper human connections, support every student's journey, and open doors to lifelong learning. See you in Denver. Register now at elive.elucian.com. Higher Ed PodCon is the world's premier conference for podcasting in higher education. Higher Ed PodCon 2 is happening July 16 and 17, 2026 on the campus of Cuyahoga Community College in Cleveland. Join hosts, producers, and campus communicators from across the country and level up your show. Learn more and register at higheredpodcon.com. The ACOPS Conference by CourseDog brings together registrars, provosts, and academic affairs leaders shaping the future of academic operations. Hear how institutions connect curriculum, catalog scheduling, and assessment to move from reactive work to proactive planning. Join us July 29th through 31st in San Diego at the Hard Rock Hotel.
Let's go!
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on another episode as we have entered now year 7 of the EdUp Experience podcast and brand. I recently, and this episode will come out in a month or so, but I recently put something on LinkedIn. You know, we've passed our 6-year anniversary. We've surpassed over 600,000 downloads of these podcast episodes. We have the EdUp Experience podcast. We have EdUp editorials where colleagues across the industry can submit articles and we publish them on behalf of our friends and colleagues as an alternative to some of the trade publications if they have something to say. We have the EdUp wrap-up on LinkedIn where we highlight leaders in around a movie theme. We have EdUp merchandise. We have the EdUp Experience Network. For those of you that haven't checked out the network, if you go to our website, edupexperience.com, we have over 25 network shows. Some are EdUp spinoffs like EdUp AI and EdUp Learning and Development and EdUp Small Schools and all different kinds. And we have some affiliate podcasts too, and those colleagues that we have in higher ed that have podcasts of their own, and we group together as independent podcasters to try to bring you as many voices to the microphone as possible to tell the very important, valuable, and relevant story of higher education, one that we're all working to protect right now. So with that, I'll get off my soapbox. I'm going to bring in my guest co-host appropriately. I'm glad to have her back. It feels like it's been a long time. Ladies and gentlemen, she's Bridget Moran. She's Senior Content Manager at CourseDog. What's up, Bridget? How are you?
Hi, Joe. I'm doing well. Yeah, it's I think it's been a few months, so it's good to be back.
You podcasted with me, I think, once, and then you disappeared. So either we just couldn't get you back on, or it was such a horrible experience you had to like go back and re-prepare to have me again, right? Like one of the
I think you'll have to go talk to Elvin about that one.
Oh, Elvin Freitas, better producer. Maybe I'm the better host. That's up for debate. We're going to let Elvin see what he thinks about that. But of course, great co-founder of the EdUp Experience podcast and one of the godfathers of higher ed podcasting, Elvin Freitas. But that's not who we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk to someone today that's going to tell us all about her university, what's happening, what we should know, leadership takeaways. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get her on the mic. She's Dr. Kathy Humphrey. She's president at Carlow University. Kathy, welcome to an EdUp Mic.
Well, thank you. I am pleased to be with you to have this conversation. So thanks for inviting me.
Well, I have to tell the story. Very recently, Kathy, you and I met in person. And a colleague of ours, Christy Siegel, who works at Lucian, walked you over and said, "This is Joe." I was probably had a dumb look on my face, and I was like, "Hey," and I said, "Hey, I do this podcast. I would love to have you on." And we sort of did the, yeah, we'll meet up sometime and we'll get on your podcast. And then here we are about a month later, and you're literally here.
And I'm here, boy. I believe in speaking things into existence, and that is what you've done.
And maybe you were already scheduled and neither of us knew it. That's the part that
I think that's what happened.
that'll blow your mind. So level set for us, Kathy. Tell us about Carlow University, where you are, who you serve, and how you serve them.
Sure. Let me begin with our history because it tells you a lot about who we are and what we do. We began 95 years ago by the Sisters of Mercy. And these were 5 gutsy, gritty women who came from Ireland to meet the next great need in Pittsburgh. If you've ever been to a Mercy hospital, if you've ever been to another Mercy institution, these are the women who started it all, who came and landed in Pittsburgh first.
Nailed it.
And what I think is incredible about that is that when you hear their story, you hear that they came to Pittsburgh and began to work immediately. And that work was about providing opportunities to those who otherwise would not have an opportunity. I start with that because that is the work we continue to do to this day. Initially, it was to provide Catholic and other women an opportunity to get an education when nobody else was allowing that to happen. I want you to think about that. That's 95 years ago. Women had just begun to vote. And here are these 5 women starting really an enterprise that would live for hundreds of years later in communities and providing hospitals and educations and elementary schools and universities. And so this work that they did to provide opportunities to those who would not have opportunities is some of the work we continue to do today at Carlow, and specifically to meet the next great need. And so much of our work is to say, okay, world, what do you need? And okay, world, who's not getting an opportunity to get an education? How can we get you that education? That's what we do in essence as an institution.
You said that was incredible. It's an incredible story, and I agree. But I think it might be
amazing,
which is even better. One thing that I find interesting about Carlow right away off the top, before I pass it to you, Bridget, if you look at your website, it is very atypical from a regular old higher ed website. And I always look for I don't want to call them oddities, but for innovation, things that don't exist elsewhere. And so if you go to a higher ed website for an institution, typically you are hit with a header and it says admissions, academic programs, student services, and almost calls out the silos that we have. And you go to yours and it says healing, expression, discovery, leadership, service. Almost like when the student hits the website, first of all, it's all about them. It's all about the student. It doesn't say, here's our, we're Amazon and here's our manufacturing department. It doesn't give you any of the inside baseball. It's literally speaking to the student, almost calling out to them, what is your interest versus here's the program, select one. How intentional is that to everything?
It's extremely intentional. So we tried to move away from just being transactional. To being, no, this is who we are. This is what you will experience. This is what we do, not just come to Carlow, because it's more than that. We want you to know why you're going to come to Carlow. So we spend our time talking about our values, who we are, what you can expect, as opposed to just saying, come because we have this program, this program, this program, this program, right? And it goes right back into one of the things I say to students every chance I get, every time I stand up in front of a large group of students, I say, to whom much is given, much is required. Because what we drive here is, you're not just getting this education for yourself, you're getting this education to make the world better. This is your piece of the puzzle, but it's not just for you, although we hope that you gain from it, but we hope you do something much more than that. I often say, my greatest hope is not just that you're successful. Although I want them to be successful because I want them to be able to get back to Carlow, of course. But that's not my greatest hope. My greatest hope is that they will play a significant role first in their own families, then in their communities, then maybe in their region, and some in the country, and some in the world, is what we ultimately hope we're doing here, is that we're changing the world through them. And that begins with how we bring you in.
I think it's, I don't know if you know how rare that is. And I see a lot of websites and talk to a lot of presidents. But if you think of the psychology of that, like I get to your website and I'm interested in maybe in the medical field, the healing. Like I want to heal people. So I click on healing, and then it serves me up a program in a way that I can heal, versus serving me up this program. And I go, what is this thing that I'm looking at? I'm interested in healing. I just think that's really awesome and rare. So I wanted to call it out and to the audience that I think you got to check out the website because it's really good.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Bridget.
Yes, I love this so much. I think, the alignment with mission, with values, that's so important. It sounds like you're really, really leading with it rather than just here's, our boilerplate statement. You have to click through a few pages to get there. So I love this kind of front and center focus here. But something I'm interested in learning more about is how do you align that mission with outcomes? I think this is something probably every president is thinking about, how do we make sure that we are getting enough students in the door and they're being successful. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you really operationalize that aspect of connecting the mission with the outcomes?
So we have been substantially blessed here. In the last 4 years, we've gone from an enrollment of about 1987 to an enrollment of about 2456. In this environment, that's a tough job to do. And people often say, how do you do it? How are you doing in this environment? And I said, we're doing it by being intensely who we are. What's that mean? We are being driven by our mission, which is provide opportunity and to respond to the needs of the greater community. That's how we're doing it, right? We're not just creating programs because we think it's going to bring in more students, although that's important, right? We're creating programs that we believe match with who we are and what we try to do. One of the greatest outcomes for me is when the students start feeding me back the mission. I've never worked at a place where the students feed you back the mission, where the students tell me things like, we're trying to create a more just and merciful world. When students start using the mission statement as the framework of how they talk about their institution, it's pretty doggone exciting. But it also tells you that we've woven the mission through their education. For example, oftentimes people say, a Carlo nurse is a different kind of nurse. Now, I had heard that in the community many, many times, but I actually experienced it. My sister was in the hospital, and we had a nurse who was very compassionate, really responded to her needs, really took care of her as a person, saw her. And I said to my sister, and this was a hospital not far from the university, actually. I said to my sister, I will lay you 10-1. This student, this nurse rather, was educated at Carlo. I'm going to lay you 10-1, right? And so I said to her later, and my sister was like, hey, you don't know, Kathy. And I was like, okay. I said to her later, I said, where'd you go to nursing school? And she said, Carlo. And it was amazing because I got to see it. You talk about measurements. I got to see it because we talk to our students about we're a mercy institution. For us, mercy means to be willing to walk into the chaos of others. We're teaching that here. We're not just teaching you how to be a good nurse. We're not just giving you skills. We're talking about compassion. We're talking about answering the call of your life. We're talking about doing work that's meaningful, that we're providing a purpose-driven education is what we're trying to do here. So that's a little bit different, and it's driving our KPIs at the same time. A little later, another nurse came in, and she wasn't as attentive. She got the job done, but there was a strikingly difference in her approach. And so I said to my sister, I said, this is not a Carlo nurse. And she's like, oh, Kathy. So I said to her, so where'd you go to nursing school? She said, a university. I'm not going to say it, another university. And I looked at my sister and I said, I told you. Right? Because of what we try to pass along to the students is more than simply the ability, but the compassion that works with the ability, the vocation of the degree.
Tell them like it is.
Yeah, I love this so much, especially when you think about, people in these healthcare settings, right? They're so vulnerable. And of course, getting good care is important, but being able to feel like you're cared about, that's so, so critical. So I'm so happy that you could share that story there. And I'm also happy that you mentioned, meeting the needs of the community. And I think that that's such an interesting part of these conversations that Joe and I have, because that can look different for every single university, right? Depending on where they're located. So I was hoping you could tell us a bit about, what are the needs of the community that you're seeing where you're located in Pittsburgh right now? What are some of the programs that you might have rolled out recently to help address those needs?
Yeah. So naturally, I'll stay with the health sciences for a moment later. So when I came into the position, I went into the hospitals and said to the teams, "What do you need here? What's missing?" Of course, nurses, of course. So we carried an LPN program. I'll tell you about that in a second. But what I want to tell you about is that one of the surgeons says, I have to cancel surgeries because I don't have enough surgical techs. And immediately, it becomes personal. Like, what do you mean you have to cancel surgeries? That could be me someday. That my surgery could have to be canceled, right? And so we immediately figured out how to start a surgical tech program. Now, what I love about the surgical tech program is this. We're meeting the needs of the community. But we took people, we partnered with the hospital. We took people that were working at the hospital. And one of the students in the surgical tech program was actually, when I asked him, why did you enroll in the surgical tech program? He said, you know what? I'd been mopping the OR my entire career, and I thought I could do more. So this person goes from mopping the OR to literally passing the instruments to the surgeon. It's life-changing. And that's the kind of education we want to provide here. I don't want to just provide an education. I want to provide a life, right? And so that's meeting the needs of the community, but it's also changing people's lives. And when you move somebody from mopping the floors to a surgical technician, you not only change their lives, you change generations, because you change their children's lives as well. So that's the kind of work that we're trying to do here. Right now, I have just bought a new car, and something I noticed because I drove 1 million cars to make this decision, but something that I noticed was in front of many of the car dealerships was a sign that says technicians needed. And I thought, what is that need? Why is everybody looking for technicians? And so I've started to research what would a degree in automobile technician look like? And I have found an institution that's providing that degree, actually, because think about it. An automobile technician is not what we used to think they are. All my car is full of computers, right? That's it. And it's the new world, right? And so how can I provide something that's really going to assist the community, but also change my curriculum to meet the needs of the 21st century, right? To think that a person who is fixing a car is just about moving things around in an automobile and not, tapping things it's just not what they do anymore. So how do we meet that need? So I'm thinking about that now is how do I help meet that need, at the same time, provide other opportunities that are meaningful, that our world will see as meaningful as well.
That's an interesting example, because if you look at, you said a lot. If you go back to what you talked about with the humanities and with healthcare and everything, and then you talk about automotive technician, the idea of one sort of job pathway that is very human and another that is becoming increasingly technological, right? An automotive technician now is almost like an AI expert in many ways, because they're running diagnostic checks and this, that, and the other. So for any president today, you're trying to balance this need for humanity, because we have it, and it's like escaping us so rapidly. I mean, see some of the stuff and the AI pictures that are out there, and just like this idea that we can't tell real from fake anymore. So the idea of being a humanity is sort of being reduced. So it's up to us to bring that to the top, because we need somebody with humanity who's a nurse. We've got to have the empathy, and then at the same time, you're updating curriculum for skills, sometimes for technical skills, for artificial intelligence, for this world of work. And these, are they divergent ideas? Are you reconciling them all together, where you have to keep the humanity and update for skills? Is it one? Is it the other? A lot of presidents are wrestling with how to balance that. You want to give us your perspective?
Well, okay, we are in a new world, and we've got some decisions to make. We've got some decisions to make about what is higher education? Mm-hmm. What is it, right? And if we get lock stock into that it's just this, or it's just that, or it's not this anymore, it's only this, I think that's problematic, right? It's all of that. That's the issue. It is not this and that, it's all of it. It is providing opportunities for people to become more knowledgeable about our world and to assist us in that operation or execution of that knowledge in a way that makes our world better, right? And so the breadth and the depth of higher education must change if we are really going to be able to really demonstrate the return on the investment, just not from a financial, but that's important, but also from education has always enriched our world. Education is what created initially a strong citizen, right? That was a productive citizen that helped us to manage the world. And that's what it has to do today, which is very different what you needed 100 years ago, right? So yes, to have a program that talks about a technician, but also to have a program that says, also, we still need people to write. We still need people to think critically. We still need people to be good at analyzing now more than ever, because the analysis is used with so much more data. And you've got to be able to parse out that so much more data than you had to do in the past. But not only do you have to parse out more data, you've got to do it 70 times faster.
100%.
Right?
You know, Bridget, I was like, Kathy's super good on a microphone. Like, it just super good, like almost too good. And so I just did a little bit of digging, and then I come across A More Just and Merciful World podcast hosted by Dr. Kathy Humphrey. And how do you like that? She's a professional podcaster in our midst.
She could be the spokesperson for higher ed. I'm seeing it already. And I completely agree with all the sentiments you just shared. And I think we do need these messages, because a lot of times, especially in the media, it's either you're a liberal arts or you're career oriented, right? And I think that oftentimes there's very few conversations where it's how can we be both? How can we be more than just that? So how do you communicate this to prospective students, to their families, who might be asking questions such as like, why do I need to take this English class, or insert, other class that they think that, I don't need to be paying for this.
Ellucian Live 2026 is taking place April 19th through 22nd, 2026 in Denver, Colorado. Advancing infinite possibilities. Turn innovation into action with AI-powered solutions, student-first strategies, and a global network of fellow leaders at Ellucian Live 2026, higher education's premier global technology conference. It's going to be
amazing.
If you work on a podcast in higher ed, this is your event. Higher Ed PodCon, the world's premier conference for podcasting and higher education, is coming to Cuyahoga Community College in Cleveland, Ohio, July 16th and 17th, 2026. Spend 2 days learning strategy, content, and technology from people who live this work. Get details at higheredpodcon.com. It's going to be
legendary.
We talk a lot about innovation in higher ed, but we don't talk enough about the operational backbone that makes it possible. We're bringing that conversation to center stage at the ACOPS conference by CourseDog. It brings together registrars, provosts, and academic leaders to share how to connect curriculum, catalog, scheduling, and assessment, moving your team from reactive work to proactive planning. Join us July 29th through 31st in San Diego at the Hard Rock Hotel.
You just made the list.
Yeah. So Bridget, let me step back a little bit, and you may have to ask me that question one more time, because you said something that I thought was really interesting from the beginning, and that, are you a liberal arts college, or are you a technical college? What are you? So I just kind of posed this question to my team, is that we don't have a term for who we are, because we're all of that. And so we need a new term. And so it's interesting that you just brought that up, because that's something that we just wrestled with. And
did you come up with it?
That's
or do you want to reveal it?
Well, that's how why I have started using the terminology of a purpose-driven education.
Let's go.
Because it's everything, right? And we're still wrestling with it a little bit, but that's what we are. That's what we're doing. And because of that, it is a combination of it all. And so when I say, why do I have to take this English class? It's got to be bigger than, well, you need to know how to formulate a sentence. It's got to be bigger than that. It's got to be bigger than you understand the notion of what is complex about a document. It's got to be bigger than that now, because it is about you got to know how to ask the right kind of questions, and you've got to be able to formulate those questions in a way. Communications now is more important than ever, right? Because in order for me to provide a good prompt for AI, I've got to be able to have a higher level of thinking, so that what comes out of AI is a higher level. Otherwise, it's too simplistic, right? And so why you do what you do now is even more important from the analytical format than it was before, right? I say all the time, if we're doing the same thing to help people create a dissertation as we were doing when I was working on my doctorate, we are letting them down. We are letting them down, because they don't have to do everything that I had to do. Nobody's going to a card catalog. Nobody's going to a library. Nobody, yes. Right? I mean, nobody's doing all the work I had to do just to get small pieces of data. Nobody has to take those pieces of data and start to triangulate them, because something will triangulate all that data for you, right? So since they have more time, what else are we asking them to do? And how are we asking them to think bigger and more ahead, more creative, more visionary? How are we teaching those skills?
It was, by the way, I let me just say that for anybody that got a doctorate degree before AI made its appearance, you have appreciation for grit and scrappy and like the non-fun part of getting the doctorate, where I think about today, Kathy, going and getting a doctorate, I'm like, boy, it would be fun to do some of that stuff. And it just, boy, what it changes like everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, think about what you could have figured out if you had AI. If you just take the essence of what you did and you said, I'm going to enter my analysis now into AI, and I'm now going to ask it questions about my, about my findings. And
I would have said, teach me what a two-way ANOVA is, please.
Okay, right? I mean, just think about that.
Yeah.
And how we are using those skills to help students understand what they need about, the classics. Well, let's examine the classics differently, right? Because now I can not only expect you to read it and spit back to me what it says, I expect you to have thought it through from an analytical point to say, how does it change my world? How does it change their world? And what relevance does it have to today?
I like that.
And something I've been thinking about during this conversation is, you mentioned these critical thinking skills, these communication skills, how they're so much more important today. And I think for me, when I think about these technological skills, they're moving so fast, right? OpenAI, Google, whoever it is, they're releasing new things on the daily. So what we might be learning in the classroom today isn't going to be the same as tomorrow. So how do you, I guess, kind of think about that when you're thinking about curricular innovation, where of course we're having these important critical thinking, communication skills, but how do we prepare students for these changing, technological, analytical skills so that way they're able to adapt when they get in the workforce?
Well, one of my concerns is that so most institutions are doing this. We're all trying to weave this concept of AI through the curriculum now, right? Because it's going to be expected of them. They won't be successful without being able to maneuver it well. And one of the things I'm concerned about is that I go to the dining halls at least once a week and sit down with random groups of students. That's where I do most of my research. And I often listen. I often say, what don't I know, right? I tell them, tell me what I don't know.
That's a good question.
I'm always fascinated with some of the things they come up with, but I'm equally fascinated with how they are not using AI, right? So, they'll say, oh, I was really struggling with this one course, blah, 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 blah. And then we get into the discussion about the faculty member, blah, 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 blah. And then I say, how did AI help you with that, right? And they were like, oh, I hadn't thought about it. I say, what? Well, did you think about asking AI some of the questions that you had or some of the things you didn't understand? Did you think about asking AI to parse it apart for you? Did you think about saying, I still don't understand, explain it to me differently? Are we driving them to that point, right? Did you download the professor's lecture into AI and ask AI to summarize the lecture for you or to make notes for you to study with? Are you using AI as a study tool? Is AI creating a new test for you to take based on the information that you have learned, right? How are we using it really to help them learn, right? When they have a tutor sitting in front of them at all times. So I think some of that work is getting them to think about it. This is a tool, and it's more than just helping you write a paper.
And I imagine some of that too has to do with perhaps uncertainty, right? About where they're allowed to use AI, because many faculty themselves are uncertain about, where does this fit within teaching and learning? How can students use it effectively without asking it to, write the entire paper for them? So how do you think about communicating that with your faculty? What type of, policies do we need to be setting or communications, all of that good stuff?
I think we have a lot of work to do on that front, right? I think some faculty grab a hold of this and they are running with it. But I think this is a part of the enterprise that we have to work with everybody to adjust to the change and to adjust to AI is not going away. I often say, when I was growing up, I will date myself at this point, which I'm okay with doing. People used to say, they're using that calculator. Nobody's going to know how to count.
Oh, no.
Right. And truthfully, to some extent, there's some truth to that, right? If you've ever been at a cash register with a young person and something happens to the cash register and they need to give you change, oh boy, that is problematic for them because they didn't have to hold a lot of data in their heads around those kinds of data points. So, but it's not soon that they pull out their phones and figure it out, which is important because maybe they can't count in their head, but they can count. It's just differently. AI is the same way. It's not going away. It's just going to advance. It's just going to get bigger. So how do we help the community understand how to use it in a helpful, ethical way? It becomes the task. And so, so here we've had workshops, we've had professional development days just around AI with our faculty and with our staff. We have created policies around AI as well. But I think it's a missed opportunity if we say, don't use it.
You want to hear something silly? So I have two younger kids and I worry about that, the counting, right? Because I've noticed my daughter, she's got a built-in AI program on her computer. And when she's doing math, sometimes she'll go, what's 125 minus 47? And it just spits out the answer. So I make them play Monopoly often. And they're the bank. And no phones around when we have family night Monopoly. And my son or my daughter, they have to be the bank. And they have to do it. And we play Monopoly quite often, like once every couple weeks. And they have to do the change. And so you're seeing them start to, and I'm like, I know that they can do the AI. That's built in. I have to think in reverse and give them the foundation. But I think that what's the confusing part for them is, importantly, what's happening with the student, because the student is one person that knows AI and what to use. We have to train the 30 people around them to use it. And if you take a student with a full load, 15 credits, they might have 5 faculty with completely different looks on AI.
Absolutely.
Deadly confusing for a student.
I think it is, but this is the world they live in.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to understand that people expect different things of you. And that is just the way it is. Right. And so how do you maneuver your own self? Because now we're in a world where learning yourself becomes important. Right.
Yes.
I have to teach myself often. Right. I am an AI user. Everything I know, I've had to figure out on my own. I haven't been able to take a class, right? I try to go as many workshops as I can to hear what people are saying, right? But, I use my time on airplanes to listen to videos on AI, right? To say, oh, I could do that, or I could do this, right? And they're going to have to do that. So this spoon feeding of education that we received, right? Because the faculty downloaded information. We sucked it up, gave it back to them on a test. That's not the world they live in, right? And so we have to help them adjust to this world. And that's what college is supposed to be about, helping you to make, it is the step before you jump into the world in all kinds of ways, right? Maturation is a part of that process, but it also a part of that process is that how do I maneuver and execute? Those are important skills.
Bridget.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I think we've talked about this a lot from the student perspective, the faculty perspective, which makes sense. That's kind of the heart of, what we do in higher education. But I think something that's less talked about is maybe the staff impact, right? We know AI certainly isn't perfect. It can be frustrating, but there are definitely opportunities as well. So how are we thinking about how staff can be leveraging AI? Is this something that you've dabbled with at Carlow?
So this is very interesting to me too, because I really believe that we've got to do a better job with AI. I actually just had a conversation with my team about how are we preparing the campus? How are we becoming more AI ready? How are we becoming an AI campus? Faculty, staff, students. From, the bots that we have that work that work on some of our websites to the data that we're collecting in our finances. How's finance using AI, right? And some of the information that I've asked for that used to take us weeks to collect, what bots do we put in place to collect that data? Some people have said that, presidents should be using the AI like a chief of staff because it can grab so much information for you, right? And so how do we use it to give us opportunities to not eliminate people so much, although I think it does, but to help us do more with the people that we have, which is really important at a small institution.
Yep.
Right? Is how do I get information to my team faster, right? How do I use an AI product to say, all right, query 50,000 alumni. Tell me what you can tell me that I need to know about those 50 alumni so that I can do a better job at raising money for the institution. Just questions like that, right? So I don't think that there's no ground here that should not be touched by AI, right? I think everybody should have an institutional access to it so that we're all using it in productive ways as well.
We want to be sensitive time. We have two questions that we end with every guest, and I want to give you an opportunity for one and take as many minutes as you need, and that's really open mic for you to say anything else about Carlow University that you want to say. Anything, plug your podcast, say anything about your staff, anything at all. Open mic, and then we'll get to the final one.
Sure. So let me say this first, that most of us at Carlow that work here, faculty and staff, we work here because of the mission of the institution. We work here to drive home meeting the needs of the next generation. And I think what I hear in the dining halls, what I hear with students in general is that the commitment to the student here is incredible. And many students come here because of our attention, because we say, we see you. Carlow University, we see you. You are a part of our community, a part of our family. So that would be the first thing I would tell you. The other thing I would say is that we are agile and unafraid to walk into spaces and places where other people may not walk or classify themselves as institutions of higher education, that we are trying to redefine what that means. And that means many things. For example, we don't see other universities necessarily as pure competitors. And so we are partnering with other institutions with back office functions, right? So our police chief is the same police chief at another university, because we don't all need police chiefs, but we all need a police chief. So doing that kind of work to see how do we share so that we can contain our cost to provide these opportunities in a world where cost is constantly rising every single day. And I would say that meeting those needs of the student where they are and changing the curriculum to meet those needs is really important. So can we partner with a culinary school to provide chemistry so that the person leaves with more than a culinary certificate, but leaves with a degree in chemistry and food? And so that's the kind of work that I think is important work. I don't need to teach culinary, but I can partner with another school that teaches culinary to make a whole different type of education that is very much a part of what that individual will need to take with them as they move out into a world where food is different than it was 20 years ago. So I'm really pleased to work at a place that's open to really seeing education as being a part of this person's vocation, being a part of what this person is called to be, and that we are unashamedly educating students around their purpose. Who are you? And what are you supposed to do with who you are is important to us, that we look for transformational growth, not just in an enrollment, but how we transform the student, how we transform our institution. That this is a group, this is a team of people who are trying to leave a different kind of legacy for this institution, that in 100 years, when I'm long gone, and I always say this, and I'm in heaven, I can look down at Carlo and say, we started something amazing and great. Look at them, Jesus. Look how well they're doing down there because of the foundation that we were able to set for the next generation.
I think you answered my next one, which is what you see for the future of higher ed. Anything else you want to add to that? Because it's an important question for us.
Yeah, I think I've covered it. I think we are walking into a new enterprise, and we must adapt as everything else around us is adapting. So must we. We cannot be the enterprise that we were for over 200 years, but we must be a totally different enterprise that looks for the need and meets that need.
Bridget, what'd you think of this conversation?
I mean, wow. I've never been to Pittsburgh, but I'm like, I need to visit now. I need to go to Carlo and visit the campus and see what's up.
We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you. Come on over.
So
well, there you have it,
think
everybody.
This was fantastic.
What a fantastic conversation. And with a trailblazing leader, check out her podcast, check out the website. You'll be very happy with what you find. It's very original. And I appreciate originality in this industry because it's going to take trailblazing leaders to show us the path. This lady's showing us the path right here. She's Dr. Kathy Humphrey. She's president of Carlo University. And Kathy, we hope you had fun today while we got to talk about Carlo.
Absolutely. I had a great time. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
You know what you've done, everybody. You've just EdUp'd Ellucian Live 2026, April 19th through 22nd in beautiful Denver, Colorado, advancing infinite possibilities. And it's higher education without limits. Don't just keep up with change, lead it. Higher education leaders from around the world are coming together at Ellucian Live 2026. Across 4 unforgettable days, discover new ways to meet students where they are and make the most of your technology through inspiring sessions and hands-on demos. Together, we're leveraging AI to create deeper human connections, support every student's journey, and open doors to lifelong learning. See you in Denver. Register now at elive.ellucian.com. It's going to be
amazing.
Let's go.
Higher Ed PodCon is where higher ed podcasts stop being side projects and start being powerhouses. This July 16th and 17th, we're taking over Cuyahoga Community College in Cleveland for 2 energy-packed days of strategy, storytelling, and tech built just for higher ed podcasters. Registration is going to happen fast, and you do not want to hear about this conference after the fact. Grab your spot now at higheredpodcon.com and lock in your registration today. It's going to be
legendary.
We talk a lot about innovation in higher ed, but we don't talk enough about the operational backbone that actually makes that innovation possible. The ACOPS conference by CourseDog brings together registrars, provosts, and academic affairs leaders who are taking academic operations to the next level.
Level up.
Join CourseDog to hear real stories from institutions connecting curriculum, catalog, scheduling, and assessment to move from reactive work to proactive planning. Explore the platform in interactive product labs and walk away with strategies you can apply right away. Join us July 29th through 31st in beautiful San Diego, California at the Hard Rock Hotel. It's going to be
Epic.